Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Podman Community Cabal meeting. Today is Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. Today we have 4 topics to talk about. A lot of them are to deal with the new upcoming CNCF change that we're having with our projects. First one off the bat there will be Matt Hand talking about CNCF Governance. And we'll have Zach. And Zach, I'm going to butcher your name, I'm sure, is Lotnick. Am I close?
That's it.
Wow.
That's
okay.
it. Yeah, good job.
He'll be talking about better ways to build images. And then Neil Smith will have a general CNCF update where we are, where we're going. And then Neil will also follow that up with a backlog management. So with that all said, I'm going to hand it over to Matt.
Okay, so this one should be relatively quick. I will start off by assuming Google Meet lets me, linking the pull request and sharing it. So we are now working on our governance model for CNCF. This basically is going to decide how the project is going to function from here on out now that we are in the CNCF. This designates things such as what the roles of our maintainers are, how things work within the project, how we add code, etc., etc. And generally speaking, if anyone wants to become involved with the project, this designates how they're going to be able to do that, how you can get promoted to a code reviewer and then a maintainer, and then a more senior core maintainer who has voting rights on project-related decisions. Anyways, this is all up on GitHub. I have linked the PR. It's still preliminary, not merged, etc. We are taking suggestions from anyone who has them. My goal would be to get a draft version of this merged into the repository either late this week or early next week, and then we'll continue accepting comments and pull requests against it for a period of several more weeks before we call it not draft anymore and start enforcing the actual rules. So I would say by late March, we would be having this in force. Yeah. There's a lot in here. It's something like 250 lines, I believe. So I won't go over every part of it. Just wanted to link it and let people review it if they care. If you don't care how the project is run, and especially if you don't feel you want to become a maintainer, you'd have no obligation to review this. But if you do want to become a maintainer in the future, this will be very useful for you. All right. I think that's about it for me.
Any questions for Matt?
Matt, do you want to just, people do listen to these recordings. Do you want to highlight how you have sort of spec'd out the notion of core maintainers, reviewers, and maybe just some of the privileges? I know they can go read that, but maybe you can break it down quickly.
Fair enough. So we start off with what we call a reviewer. A reviewer is basically just assisting in code review. You can become a reviewer by reviewing code for a while, and eventually the project maintainers will nominate you to be a reviewer, or you can ask to be nominated. And then once you have been nominated and accepted, you gain the ability to approve pull requests, as in mark them as being reviewed, but not to merge pull requests. The next step up is a maintainer. Maintainers have the ability to actually merge pull requests on a single repository. All maintainers will be drawn from reviewers. So if you've been a reviewer for a period of time and you're doing good work, you can ask to be nominated as a maintainer. And once you become a maintainer, you gain the ability to merge code on that repo and also to attend maintainer meetings, although you do not have a vote on project governance at that point. Next step up from that is core maintainer. So we have a bunch of repos in the Podman project. Podman, Builder, and Scopio have all been donated. And in recognition of the fact that they have very different requirements, very different roles, we have a core maintainer function, which is basically people who have the knowledge and experience to govern the whole project, i.e. they know how all of our projects work together and things of that nature. Core maintainers are drawn from maintainers. After a period of experience as a maintainer and doing a good job there, you can become a core maintainer. Core maintainers get actual votes on how the project runs going forward. And then on top of that, we have a community manager role, which is sort of ancillary. That's going to be people who help us maintain the community, run meetings like this, etc., etc. And I think that's about everything.
And I ask the origin, did you base this off a CNCF template of sorts and take it from there?
Yes, this is a heavily modified version of what CNCF calls the contributor ladder. We added a few roles they don't have and removed some that they have that we don't need.
Okay, any other questions for Matt? Hearing none, I'm going to say thank you, Matt, and we will ask Zach to go ahead and talk to us about better ways to build images.
Hey folks, so without going into it too much, so I'm part of the machine config operator or MCO team that works on the on that OpenShift component. And so one of the things that we do is we do OS configuration, and with image mode, we've been kind of looking at, like, we're now tasked with building an OS image, and there's some conditionals that we had to think about, like, okay, if this is this, do this thing or do this other thing. And really the only solution that we were able to come up with that worked was like templatizing a container file. And this got me thinking of this whole process got me thinking of, is there a better way to do this? Is there kind of a better way to kind of think about this? And I believe me when I say that I read so much code in the Builda and Podman repos and everything in containers, just to try to get some inspiration for kind of a better way to do things. And last week I did a presentation at the Containerization Guild gathering, basically called Building Containers Programmatically. I'm not going to go into it too much, just because I don't want to waste everyone's time. But the general gist of my idea was that there's a lot of Builda itself has quite a number of APIs that you can use, even if they're, there's a lot of knobs and dials there, and that's just a consequence of how complex this stuff really is. And it made me think that, maybe we could build some higher level abstractions on top of it. I don't know what it could look like. I did kind of a code sketch, if you will. I can share it if you like. It was, I'll just share my I'll just share the samples that I did for the, wait, what is, hang on, oops, won't let me share. It says I don't have permission, but that's okay. Anyway, the idea that I had was just having some better building blocks that we could put together. And in speaking about this with Jonathan LeBon, I'm not sure if he's here or not. I know that they have some. I know that they have some particular use cases around chunking image layers and chunking things into there. I don't want to misspeak and kind of misdefine that particular problem, but in general, I just kind of wanted to get an idea. I just wanted to get an idea over whether this is something that we should maybe explore a little bit, or just kind of experiment with. Just to be clear, I'm not looking to replace container files. I don't think that somebody should have to write a program in order to build a container image. And I don't see something like this being built into either Podman or Builda, but those tools could be used as kind of a foundation for something else. So anyway, I will leave it at that for right now. I would share my screen, but it said something about permissions, so but that's okay.
Tom, are you aware of why he can't share his screen?
No, I'm not, unless it's a Google Docs, some kind of perm.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. It worked before.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually, before we started the recording, we did a test
Yeah.
run.
Yeah, it worked. Could be my computer because could just be having a bad day.
Do you want to send Tom a link and he can
Yeah,
share?
sure. Yeah, sure. Let me see if I can just link to just this slide here. I don't want to. Oh, there it is. Here. I'll just drop it here for now. I don't know if that slide's gonna come up. This was the one thing that I just want to point out with this is that this is just me just writing proof of concept code, and really all it does is it just spits out a container file that has steps in it. You can compose them any way you want. I'm not saying that that's the approach that one should take. Instead, it's just kind of an idea that, okay, you know, we can create building blocks on top of things, or on top of this, that can do that would know. Like, for example, one of the ideas I had was this idea of just kind of a generic package installer that takes a base name, a list of package names, and a final image tag, and knows what to do with it. It would know if the base image is, you know, uses RPM OS tree or uses DNF. It would know how to resolve package names. It would know how to do a bunch of different things along those lines. And that's just one example of kind of a building block. I could see some other examples as well. I kind of wish I would have shown that in this presentation, but you know, I was in a bit of a time crunch to get everything put together for it.
So are you asking if you can put something in front of the builder to produce a batch of container images?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily that, because I've read the API docs. I know that it has quite a rich API that one could use to do that. In fact, I've kind of done it following the example that was there. More what I'm thinking about is this idea that of having building blocks for container images that doesn't necessarily require one to write a container file. I mean, they can if they want, but I see it as more of a is more of a way to have more control over the build process. Actually, let me see if I can get let me see if Jonathan can join, because there's Jonathan certainly had some ideas around chunking and things like that I want to make sure that actually, wait a minute.
Do you want to pause this talk for the moment, and we'll go on to the next
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, go ahead. We can
See what
we can pause it.
Can Jonathan on? Okay. So next up that we had is CNF update. Neil.
Okay. Just share my screen.
Oops.
So this is the CNCF update part first?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. As part of, we got accepted to Sandbox in January, and the next thing we're working on is onboarding ourselves into the CNCF. So here's the official one, and we have created a copy so that we can edit it. And so now you can see what we're at. So this is inside of Podman as an issue called CNCF onboard tracking. We are well underway. The big thing that we're waiting for is CNCF changed some of their agreements in the contribution agreement. So Red Hat Legal is looking over that to make sure that they're still okay with it. but as everybody knows, that takes a little bit of time. And then we are going through and marking these things as done. The big one that Matt already talked about is the governance. And then one of the main other things that we're waiting for the legal agreements is then we will send over all of our images and artwork to the CNCF. We will be moving some of our communication platforms over to Slack workspace. That's where CNCF does their communications. We will be transferring our website domain over to the CNCF for ownership. And we will be, Matt was also talking about this, and that was some of the issues. We will be putting together our maintainer list and adding it to the CNCF maintainer list, aggregated maintainer list. And that's pretty much almost all of it. So basically waiting on legal, and then we'll have a big push through for some of these things to happen in terms of sending over artwork and the other ownership pieces that Red Hat still has. And then we will start the work on moving into incubation. Any questions? Great. I'll just move on to the next thing.
Sure.
Okay. What I wanted to talk about with the community is we were doing some analysis on the amount of open PRs and open issues and their growth in the repositories we sort of care about. So these are looking at, just a second. These are looking at the following repositories: Aardvark, Builda, Common, Conmon RS, Container SE Linux, crun, Image, Nanovark, Podman, Podman Pi, Scopio, and Storage. We did some analysis, and one of the things that we saw was, and this is on how long things are open, is that for some old issues, we have some old issues. So most of our issues, 50% of our issues are not that old. Okay, 24 days is the oldest one in the 50 percentile in Scopio. But as we get into 75 percentile and max, we have quite a few very old items that have been just sitting around forever. If we look at this graph, this is our growth in open issues as time goes by. So, in 2022, we had about 450 items open, right? Issues, and we've had a huge growth in items that are staying open until right now. We have, or that whenever I took this data, we have around 1,100 or 1,150 open issues. PRs aren't quite as bad, but we have about 190 open PRs. What I was wanting to discuss is, what do people think about this? Do we think we need to start looking at things that have been around for a long time and marking them as closed won't fix because of date? Or what should we do with these ancient items and trying to get our backlog back in control in a way, which without leaving these things open forever? Or does the community want us to leave those things open forever? That's what I was going to ask people. Any opinions?
All right, I'll bite. I think I've said this before, but it gets the conversation going. What I have heard is that our team have been the ones that want to keep them open
Right.
because there's been a belief that at some point we're take care of them. I think the reality has set in with 700 issues, at least on one of those repos, that's probably not working and is contributing a lot of noise to the ability to be able to manage a backlog.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, for me, one of the questions that I would ask the team to contemplate and others, which is, would doing a mass purge based on something help us manage our backlog? Not because we reduced it, but because then we have less to look around for.
The one thing that's my opinion is, if we're really not going to be doing something with an issue, if we keep it open, you end up looking at it repeatedly and spending time on something that is basically a waste of time. So that's what I'm hoping. We all have limited time. So I was just, I don't want, if we do make a decision, we should also have a policy of, let's just get this out of the way so we don't have to see it again. Paul, your hands up.
Yeah, so I find the term backlog maybe not very fitting to upstream issues. It's not a backlog, it's a list of whatever users reported, and to the largest extent, these are bugs that actually exist. If they weren't existing, then we would have closed many. Of course, that includes a bunch of limbo state stuff where we have no idea, is this some random environment failure, or is this actually something in the Podman code, right? These are hard things, whether you want to close them or not, but I believe a vast majority of things will stay open because they are valid bugs. And just randomly closing them in hopes they are not reported again is kind of pointless, and it won't reduce work, because they will be reported again, and then somebody else reads the same bug report again, which doesn't really help that much, in my opinion. So I'm thinking if the goal is to lower the number, that's for me not what I worry about. What's the number?
I guess my goal is not to just lower the number. It's more about, one thing is the people are, the community, the users are saying, hey, I found something. And then we're keeping it open forever, even though we looked at it and at some point in time know that we're not going to do anything with it. I think that's, they would, if I was a user, I'd rather you just told me you're not going to do anything with it.
Yeah, do we know that at this point? Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah. Let's go to my own stuff.
I can understand if we looked at it and it's this is probably an issue we should look into, and we let it sit around, but obviously it wasn't urgent enough, so it sat there for 3 years. At some point in time, should you not say, we're never going to look at this, right? I don't know. Miloslav?
Yeah. First, to the expected benefit, if I basically look at the old ones during the bug weeks, which means once a quarter, and it's just skimming the titles, which I try to keep updated, so that rounds to zero cost. And there would be no efficiency benefit from closing them. Otherwise, if we talk about bugs, I'm ambivalent. There is still the fact that some user took the time to write that down, and it might be valuable in itself. and closing it is just throwing that away. On the other hand, setting expectations. We are sorry we can't get to it. Maybe you can help. There might be some value for it. For closing feature requests, I would be fairly strongly opposed because they frequently contain some clarification, discussion, context. And I mean, what's the benefit of closing that? If we have a canonical place for that, this idea that might get done someday. We've been thinking about that for 5 years. It's not likely to get done, but still, it's a good pointer to that idea. And if we close feature requests and instead start maintaining a text file roadmap, that's not better.
It sounds like the ultimate question here really is it more frustrating for a user to find a bug that is closed without a solution, or that has remained open for the last 3 years without a solution? I have always been on the leave it open side of things, saying that the bug is still a bug, but we just aren't really, we don't have the ability to work on it and fix it, has always been my preference. I agree with Millslop on RFEs, though. We should leave RFEs open, generally speaking, unless it is something that we decide is just not suitable for the project and should be entirely removed.
Yeah, that's fair. Priorities and ideas of the project can change over time.
Giuseppe?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it happens that I Google for some errors and from libraries or other open source projects, I end up on a GitHub issue. If I see it open, I find it useful to know that no one looked at it. And like the first impression, then if you find it closed, it's either people don't care or they fixed it. So closing issues just by their age, I don't see the, like personally, I don't see the advantage, not for us, not for the users. Like, I mean, when we are forced to the bug week, we go back to these old issues and see if something changed from what we know now. But otherwise, I mean, I just look at what's coming new. We have enough stuff new coming to see if, like, to triage it and understand if it's something to fix now or just document that it exists. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if this would work or not, but if we went into one of our projects and then put on a whole bunch of tags on older issues with closing, considering closing or some label along those lines, if we don't get a response after 30 days, after 60 days that, no, this is important to me, then go ahead and closing it. So kind of give them a shot over the bow that we're going to think about closing this one. If it's important to you, remove this label or make a comment here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's like, I need the for info, like on Bugzilla, there is something like that, like classifying such issues that we are blocked because we don't know, and then the user disappears, then yeah, that makes sense to close. And yeah, to give some time to it, like put a label and if nothing happens, close it in 30 days or something.
Like I like, please look at the graph. The slope is basically we're adding 500 open bugs per year right now on top of everything. So at some point in time, and this might get even bigger as we go along, if we're never doing anything about them, this will be a ginormous number. And I don't do this. You guys are doing this, so you have to think of how you want to manage this. But so,
speaking from experience, there is quite a lot of hate against the Stalebot from users, because most projects are using the Stalebot to close issues, and you have a lot of comments if the Stalebot kicks in, please don't close this issue, like because it just creates like this negative attitude. Because I think users don't want things to be closed, at least not when there are bug reports and nobody has looked at things, especially then. Like, It's just not fair to the user. And I don't know if things are keep growing, then we need to spend more time on issues and less working on features, if that's the thing, right? And that goes pretty much the same for every bug source that is like.
Yeah.
Well, this is the community Cabal. It would be nice to hear from somebody, not from Red Hat.
Yeah.
Historically, we've had looked at this, and we've had graphs of whether the part that is growing is features or bugs, and that differs quite a lot between the projects. Although a lot of it is also that it frequently isn't triaged enough to even be categorized.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions here?
Yeah, I was really hoping to get a community member's opinion, but we will keep thinking about this.
James is adding that he would prefer to keep them open.
Maybe
Zach?
we somehow mark the ones we've opened that we've looked at them with a triage flag or something so that you never have to go back there.
Yeah.
And then just take those out of, back with people's to-do lists of looking at things. Okay, Zach, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready, but looks like Jonathan's busy. Just because I don't want to misattribute some of his thoughts, because after this, him and I have had some discussions about that. If it would be more helpful, I can certainly come up with a more cohesive way to describe my idea and present it again in the future, if that might be more helpful.
Love to have you anytime.
Okay, I can do that. Thanks.
Yeah, just as for informational, we have a meeting every Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month. 1 month, this one is more of a design kind of meeting, and the next one on the even number of months are for more doing demos and such, showing things that are going. So whichever you think
cool.
Best.
Cool, good to know. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Given that, we've gone through our topics for the day. So are there any questions or open discussions that people want to have? While folks are thinking about that, our next community meeting, our next Cabal meeting is Tuesday, May 6th. And our next Cabal meeting, oops, am I getting the dates wrong here? Here, March. No, that's the Cabal meeting is on May 6th. And then we have community meeting, and it's wrong in the agenda. I'll have to change that. Will be on April Fool's Day, no fooling.
It'll be a fun meeting.
Yes. We ought to do a theme of some sort. I can't imagine what kind of theme we could do though. Right. Any other questions, comments, discussions? If not, we'll stop the recording and thank everybody for coming and for doing the presentations today.
Thanks, folks.